From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on what curiosity really kills. This episode is based on one of the chapters in my book, Leadership Gems for Women 30 Characteristics of Very Successful Women. And this is one of the traits that I talk about from a perspective of both personal and professional curiosity. So we'll drill into that. But before we get started, I just wanted to share a quote, and really what this quote inspired the title for this podcast. Harry Lorraine declared, "Curiosity killed the cat, but where human beings are concerned, the only thing a healthy curiosity can kill is ignorance." And we've all heard the little cliche saying, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. And, it's kind of used sometimes to tell us not to ask questions or not to be curious about something. Curiosity killed the cat. Well, don't be curious. Well, really, the only thing that curiosity does kill is ignorance, right? There's no reason we shouldn't be curious because that's how we learn, right? I mean, every one of you who are parents and have children realize how much development comes in those early years where a young child is curious about everything, but that's how they learn, right? They don't know that the stove is hot, and that's why they'll reach out to touch it. But once they do, they realize, hey, that's hot, and they learn that lesson far better than if you say, hey, the stove is hot, don't touch the stove, right? They don't really learn anything when you say that, but when they actually reach out and try to touch it, then they realize, hey, that really is hot, right? But there's that natural curiosity is inherent in us, and that's in a powerful way for us to learn as human beings, right? On the personal side, we need to be curious. We need to explore new things. I always loved when when Eric was little, and Mac and I always made a point of planning a trip and taking Eric on a different place to a different vacation. And we went to some pretty cool places because one of the things we knew is that travel really helps us learn more, and we can be curious about new places and new experiences and things like that. And so I remember one memorable trip. It was just like a little weekend getaway we took to Niagara Falls, and we were able to take Eric with us, and it was just so neat to kind of go explore, all three of us. And I think we must have gone in like February, and it was just absolutely freezing cold up there. But it was kind of neat because all of the just all of the it wasn't really that snowy, but all of the spray from the falls, would blow up into the air, and then it would freeze. And so it kind of had that effect of snow. But we just had so much fun just exploring and really, helping him just learn how to explore and to be curious and, you know, kind of see new things and new experiences because it does help us learn in such a new way. It opens up our mind, right? Travel and new experiences open up our level of awareness relative to how the world works. And so it is helpful to be curious, right? There's so many great opportunities now for learning new things and new information. And you can just about learn anything on Google and YouTube if you're willing to dig through the videos. But it's great to be curious because curiosity really stimulates our intellect, right? I love Samuel Johnson's quote. He says, "Curiosity is one of the most permanent and certain characteristics of a vigorous intellect." And that's so true because you think of the most brilliant people throughout history, the most intelligent people, they were curious about how things worked, and they were open to learning, and they were seeking answers. And so curiosity can be a very powerful attribute in helping us grow and helping us develop. Intelligent women know they always have a lot to learn, regardless of how much they already know. So, leaders should be curious because a couple of things about curiosity. Number one, curiosity can increase our influence with others. because when we're curious about someone, we're telling them that we're willing to learn from them. And we're telling them that we want to learn about them because influence is based on that respect and trust. And when we are curious about someone, they feel like we care and they're much more open to influence. Right? Just the 7 habits of highly effective people, Stephen Covey, 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit 5 is seek first to understand and then be understood, right? So number 1, first and foremost, curiosity increases our influence because we can build influence when we're curious, when we understand someone else's viewpoint, and then they're more open, hopefully, to understanding ours. Number 2, curiosity creates opportunities. I just finished up reading, it's kind of a cool book. I'd never really heard of the person who wrote it until just a couple weeks ago. Mac and I were speaking in Savannah. We had just kind of a whirlwind week where we were in like Seattle and then Canada, and then we flew home and drove to Savannah. And we spoke like 3 times in Savannah in 3 days. And anyway, one of the events where we spoke at was um, a private company training rather than a big conference. But when we got done, we're kind of wrapping up the session, and the owners of the company gave us, just a little thank you gift, and had some cool stuff in it. But one of the things they gave us was this book called Find Your Yellow Tux by Jesse Cole. And I'd never heard of Jesse Cole. And they were like, "Oh, you got to read this. It's all about the owner of the Savannah Bananas." And I was like, "What?" I've never heard of the Savannah Bananas, but not being in Savannah, I didn't think that was unusual. But anyway, so I read the book. The book was really good. I got some good nuggets out of it, and maybe I'll share those in a future podcast episode. But I loved the book just from the perspective of, as the author was sharing, sharing a little bit about his journey, a little bit about his story, and talking about the culture there at the Savannah Bananas and how they really focus on the entertainment. I mean, yes, he owns a baseball team, but they don't really think about it from the perspective of being in baseball. They think about it from being in the perspective of entertainment. And so apparently they're pretty popular because they really focus on doing cool and crazy things that give you an experience rather than just a ball game. So they do things like one of the things that stands out was a beauty contest for grandmas. And so they invited a bunch of grandmas, brought them in from a nursing home and did a contest with them and all kind of cool stuff like that. And they do fun things like that, races or contests or little side skits that really keep the people entertained. But anyway, I really appreciated the perspective of the book. But one of the things that he focused on in the book was really talking about having that openness to experience. And he didn't necessarily call it curiosity, I don't think, but that's really what it is he was talking about he wants everyone in their culture to be open to experiences because that creates a wonderful experience for the fans, right? And so he talks about one of the interesting things he talked about was he said, and I quote from the book, he said, "I don't look at resumes when I'm hiring people." He said, "I'm not interested in what someone has done, and a resume would only tell me that." He said, "I'm more interested in figuring out if somebody's gonna fit into our culture." So I thought that was pretty cool. But he talks about one specific instance where he brought somebody on board, a new team member, and really had to just encourage them. This person was maybe a little introverted to begin with, and so he really had to encourage this person to open up and to get outside the comfort zone. But once he was able to help them understand, this is about having fun here at work, right? Doing what we do, but having fun doing it, and being curious about how to do that and how to do that best, and being willing to try new things, and sometimes they don't work. And he talks about that a lot in the book too, and saying, "You know what? But hey, we tried. There was a lesson here, even if it didn't go like we thought, even if it was a complete flop, quote unquote, we learned something from it. And so it was a valuable experience." So really cool when he talked about that, and just how he encourages everyone on the team to be curious, and how that's led to some incredible opportunities for them and their culture. And as they're in the business of entertaining people, encouraging people to be curious. And so he talks about Walt Disney a lot. and how that was really an inspiration for him. And so I'll share a quote from Walt Disney that I think applies here. Walt Disney said, "We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths." Right? And this is Walt Disney. So a really good reminder that curiosity creates opportunities. Number three, curiosity stimulates growth. And I touched on that just a little bit or a minute ago, but really, curiosity allows us to ask some deep questions and pay attention to the answers. Pay close attention to the answers on what's going around, because when something looks, when you look around and something is happening, maybe unexpectedly, make sure you're looking for the cause and looking for the opportunities, the possibilities, and be curious about those possibilities. Right? A lot of times we miss opportunities or possibilities because we're just not looking for them. And so I know it's easy to get in kind of the daily grind, the daily rut, and yet when we do, sometimes we forget to look up and look at the world around us. We're so interested in just trudging through the day, but we miss out on so many opportunities, so many possibilities when we are just not looking for those. What you look for is what you're going to find, right? Growth is what separates leaders from followers. And so being curious is going to help us stimulate that growth. Thinking about things, thinking deeply into things, and being curious about why. Why? It's I love anytime we fly, I love just the opportunity to people watch in an airport, because you can learn an incredible amount about human behavior just by watching people in the airport. But I always love to just be curious about, well, where is this person going? Why are they walking fast? Are they in a hurry? Or why are they doing this? Why are they acting this way? Right? Because you can learn so much more or so much about people when you just take time to stop and observe and be curious about why people do what they do. And last but not least, curiosity solves problems. One tiny little word can help solve even really, really big problems in our life, personally or professionally, but asking why. And as a leader, it's our job to ask why something happened, or why is it the way it is? And not with the intent to blame somebody. We really do have to be careful when we ask why in a professional environment as the formal authority leader, because a lot of times when you ask somebody why, they immediately assume, well, maybe I did it wrong, right? And we, to some degree, we have to be careful about just declaring our intent and saying, "Hey, and I'm not implying that you did this wrong. I just really want to know why you did it this way, or help me understand from this perspective." Kind of asking why with the mindset of that 3-year-old or 4-year-old little kid who wants to know why does the sun come up every morning? Why does the moon rise every night, right? Just that natural curiosity instead of asking why in order to blame someone about something. Being curious about problems and making sure that you're looking for all of those possible solutions, right? Take advantage of the synergy of other people when you ask why and invite dialogue in a healthy environment, because then you can leverage everybody's knowledge. So, making sure that people know you're not blaming them, you're not putting them on the defensive, and just asking why something happened, right? In order to seek the cause so you can find the solution. But unless we're willing to ask why, and sometimes that's a tough question to ask. But if we're not willing to ask it, we could be missing out on a possibility. And you think of so many examples where this can play out, particularly in an organization or in a job or at work, where you're tasked with accomplishing big projects and things like that. It's important to know, number 1, ask why we're why we're doing this to begin with. Why is it relevant? Is it relevant? Is it something that, maybe we're just running these spreadsheets and quarterly numbers because we've always done it, but now we don't really need it, right? That can help solve you some time in the long run. But you have to slow down to ask why on the front end. Why are we doing this? What can we do better, right? Why did this happen? Why did a mistake happen? Is there something in our process that needs to be corrected so that this doesn't happen again? Particularly, I think this is relevant for, safety incidents or something like compliance, where maybe somebody unintentionally did something and they didn't mean to, right? But maybe there's something in the process we can set that up to make it safer or more effective or easier to be compliant with whatever process we're trying to do to begin with. Starting to ask why. Why did this go wrong? Why did this go right? That's a good question too, right? Just asking, "Hey, this went really well. This came out great." Or, this was a potential thing that we did it right. Everything went smoothly. Why? Why did it go right? What was different about this? And maybe we can replicate that or duplicate that going forward, right? So, really good just things to remember about why curiosity can help us so much personally or professionally. And the only thing that curiosity is going to kill, cats aside, all cats aside, the only thing curiosity is really going to kill is ignorance, right? Being willing to learn new information and share new information and learn from others. And that's what curiosity is really going to stamp out, is just the ignorance when we don't have the lack of knowledge, right? So be curious. Until next time. Hey, thanks for listening to the Fearfully and Wonderfully Me podcast. Ladies, if you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, I'd love to invite you to join me on a monthly call on personal and professional leadership development, specifically for women. You can join from Zoom via your desktop or on the mobile app on your phone. The app is free. There's no cost to join the sessions, and I invite you to just come along and grow with me and the other ladies who are committed to developing themselves personally and professionally, increasing their influence, developing their leadership, and maximizing their results. Hey, you can find out more details and get the registration link at riastory.com/leadership call. See you then.